We are going to our video here just a second. And we're going to talk about burnout and also stress related stuff today. That's going to be basically it. We who are in chaplaincy can see a lot of things that are tough and sometimes get ourselves over involved. I know that it's really great to be gung ho, but it can be taxing to you in ways that you may not understand. The ministry itself is taxing. So let's just go through some of this stuff and make sure we're on board with how to take care of ourselves. Okay. As we talk in class number 11 about burnout. All right. What is burnout? Here are some definitions. Burnout is a form of stress that all people suffer at various times. Burnout becomes critical when we are distressed and begin to feel fatigued and frustrated every day with no relief. Normally, people have days when they feel energetic and optimistic, days that are so-so, and days when they are down and frustrated. When your days go from being fatigued and frustrated to despair and anger with no good days in between, then you might be suffering burnout. Oops. Fatigue is exhaustion from continuous and long-term stress, hard work. It isn't necessarily from lifting stuff. In fact, if you ever preached a big important sermon, you know a kind of tiredness that regular physical work can't get you to. You're just done in. The spiritual tiredness sometimes. Compassion can lead to an over concern for others' welfare, placing their good above your well-being. It's a very Christian and noble and sacrificial stance, but compassion literally means to suffer with. Sometimes you can suffer from compassion burnout. Depression is a clinical condition of lowered psychological strength, compounded by loss of energy, of appetite. We'll go out and do what one is supposed to do. You just don't have the will. You just can't get along to get along. Depression stops you. Here's Pastor Jeff. Get it back here. Okay. Now, finally, perception or perspective. Our worldview, our self-image, our self-value, the value we have in others can be affected by burnout. Perception can be harmed greatly by depression or burnout. In other words, everything looks brown, everything looks bad to you. It can be a very negative worldview, and it can happen to anybody. Now, the causes of burnout. Police have too much to do and not enough time to do their jobs. Crime and calls for police service are increasing incessantly, but resources and time to do the job are not increasing accordingly. One of the things that suffers from that is that what used to get a cop to roll up to your house and take a report on, say, a vandalized vehicle, now you're just told by dispatch to go online and fill in the form and send it in, and we'll file it for you. We just can't cover it with a police officer. A poster says, "We, the dedicated, have done so much with so little for so long. We're now qualified to do the impossible with nothing." And that kind of sums up the job of police officers. Police have a job that must be done well in seemingly impossible circumstances. Demands on police are accelerating, not just growing. Changes in crime, court decisions, and community expectations occur faster than people can cope with the changes. We're all suffering from the stress that Alvin Toffler called future shock in his excellent book, but it's from like 50 years ago. Future shock was going to lead us into a time much like we have today. Consider a scene. An officer is on a bridge in a cold rain, protecting the scene of an accident caused by a burglar escaping from a building and is being cursed by a passing motorist who had to slow down on the freeway. The officer wishes that she had the problems of an office worker who is frustrated because the transformer in a light is buzzing and the coffee isn't ready yet. The community expects the officer to clear the freeway immediately, care for injured people, gather all evidence necessary to convict the fleeing felon, not inconvenience other people, and keep citizens and administrators happy all at the same time. We're talking about cop burnout just due to the nature of the job. Okay. Demands at home don't relent either. An officer must meet the needs of his or her family and spend time with them. Yet he works shift work, attends court, and works overtime. He has little control over these times and how they affect his family. We have a lot of mandatory overtime in our department, or have had in the last several years. He does not receive a large salary to compensate for the time that he can't spend with his family, and there's no compensation for that anyway. He is further demoralized because he is seldom recognized or appreciated for his work. When he rolls up, everybody's mad at him. In fact, officers are sometimes criticized by the news media, officials, and citizens after putting themselves in harm's way to aggressively protect and to serve. No wonder so many are suffering from job burnout. This is one of the reasons that award ceremonies are important, and for chaplains to attend, they're important, because we at least get this one chance during the whole course of a year to tell an officer he or she has done a fine job, an exemplary job, and we recognize them. It helps. The causes of burnout mentioned are not the only causes, and police work is not the only profession that suffers burnout. Regardless, the fact remains that many police employees are suffering from burnout. Officers need to remember that dedicated civilian employees are just as committed and suffer many of the same stresses. Diagnose the burnout, symptoms of what burnout looks like. Burnout appears in job performance, health, and emotional stability. Job performance, a lessened productivity, carelessness, and absenteeism. Officers make fewer calls and initiate fewer activities. They become careless in their appearance, don't take good care of their equipment or their cars. A person might drink more, sleep less, and eat erratically. Alcohol interferes with normal sleep cycles that rejuvenate emotional reserves. Low quality foods from fast food places contribute similarly to alcohol to mess up your body rhythms. And so we don't feel good, and we don't sound good, and we don't look good. On the physical side, the body begins to give out under the distress. People have indigestion, ulcers, and body aches. Higher blood pressure is common. Officers complaining of or feeling more physical ailments than normal need to heed their bodies, which are shouting that these things are a problem and that they're in trouble. At an emotional level, people become depressed and despair of continuing to try. They are often lethargic, apathetic, and tired. They become anxious and irritable. Their very demeanor is a bright, flashing sign showing the problems that lie within. This can happen to any of us, of course. And ministry is no less stressful than policing. If you see these symptoms in yourself or in an officer, you might be seeing the effects of job burnout. And the blue code of silence just doesn't apply. The blue code of silence means we don't talk about each other's problems because we don't want them to talk about ours. Officers suffering burnout often don't see the temporary nature of their feelings, nor the need for their support. Be proactive to help a friend, not reactive in bemoaning the loss of a good officer. Contact support services such as a chaplain, us, psychologist, or peer support group. Offer an understanding ear, and don't just sit by and watch a career tiredly soak away. Preventing burnout. Let's help that little guy on the right now. Maintaining physical health and exercise is the most obvious and concrete way to prevent burnout. As a person begins to despair, she usually stops exercising and taking care of herself. She skips meals and eats junk from fast food establishments. She sleeps less. A downward spiral begins. If you're burnt out, start sleeping more, eating good foods, and getting exercise. Don't work longer, work smarter. Set realistic goals. Do what you can do. You're only responsible for what you can do. I know in life coaching, which is a kind of proactive, future-driven sort of therapy or coaching, the idea is to set goals that are achievable in a short range. So you can know that you've accomplished something. You can close the door on one item in the do list. Leave the job at home. Become a normal human being. Enjoy friends and family. Have as many friends outside of law enforcement as within. Talk to your loved ones about what you do. Don't protect them. You are a person first. Guide your children to adulthood, not an officer laying down the law for suspects. Have people to talk to away from work. Talking with someone who is sympathetic helps sort your feelings. Avoid people who continually gripe. They feed despair in you. This is why choir practice never really helped officers out of their burnout. Choir practice, I think Mark helped us understand last time, was when the officers would go out drinking after their shift and talk about the day and kind of decompress. It does have a good psychological reasoning, but the alcohol doesn't help. Burnout results when a dedicated person doesn't receive the rewards and recognition he or she expected for a job well done. Read the Bible. Ultimately, you work for the Lord, and you'll be judged by the Lord. If your supervisor overlooks your dedicated work, you can be sure that your Lord will remember it. Eternal rewards are better than immediate ones, as a brick of gold bullion is better than a copper penny. Keep your spiritual perspective. After all, you are an important part of a much larger war of good against evil, in which crime forms but a single campaign. Now we'll talk about chaplain burnout. This has been sort of oriented to police officers. Chaplains can get burnout too. In a life filled with multiple responsibilities, a minister can overtax his or her life with stressors that eventually take a toll. Even a chaplain can become burnt out and need to take some serious time away from some aspects of his or her life that cause stress. We owe it to one another to keep a watch on each other and maintain healthy psychological health, as well as spiritual health. Being spiritual people helps greatly, for our sense of futility, hopelessness, or despair is reduced by faith. However, we're not immune. Just because you're spiritual doesn't mean everything comes out well. All right. Studies demonstrate that spiritual well-being helps persons moderate the feeling associated with trauma and critical incidents, anxiety, hopelessness, and isolation. Many officers and patients expect chaplains to help them with distressing feelings, and so we do. Lower the burnout rate. Chaplains help officers, firefighters, healthcare workers cope with personal problems. We can enhance morale and decrease the burnout. In one study, 73% of ICU physicians and nurses believe providing comfort for staff is an important chaplain role. 32% believe chaplains should be available to help staff with personal problems. Well, of course, that's hospital chaplains, but it's doing much the same job. A powerful reminder. When religious beliefs and practices are tightly interwoven with cultural contexts, chaplains constitute a powerful reminder of the healing, sustaining, guiding, and reconciliation power of our religious faith. That was a rather short one, gentlemen. Do you have any questions? And I'll open the lines to our callers. Anybody ever suffered what you consider was real burnout? Mark, who's the cop, did. Yes, I can believe that very, very easily. Burnout's a real thing. Basically, I mean, it doesn't look like a car crash, but it looks like somebody just took a couple of extra quarts of your blood, right? You just don't have the energy. You don't have the desire to keep trying. You need a place to hide. Just go feel crummy, and the world looks bad to you. Start feeling bad about your cohort. The burnout can happen to a pastor, a minister in this field. We tend to have a very undefined job. And so if we interact with people a lot and they begin to have expectations on us, we'll overtry. We'll sometimes overshoot the mark. We don't understand the cost to our own psychical beings that the ministry costs. And sometimes we don't get it and we can lose it. So just a good reminder to keep on, keep a thumb on your own pulse and make sure that you're okay, and check for others. One of the lessons that I probably should have put in this slide set in this thing is that the demands for chaplains in the field and chaplaincy and police chaplaincy vary a lot. You'll have no calls, 3 or 4 or 5 months. Then you'll get 2 calls in the same day. That happened to me when I had the 11-year-old burn victim in that house that burnt down. I had been called out to a death in the home, which was a lovely visit, really a very interesting household. But a woman had an adult child staying with her who died in a bed in a trailer on the property. And we had a good long discussion, and it kind of did that well. I was just driving back to go to the church office again. And on the way, I got a call to go to this other call where the house fire had just been put out, and the 11-year-old girl's body had been taken out. And the trauma at that site was many times more than what I had just gone through. I could do it. It was fine. But these sort of multiplicities of calls, or if we end up the only active chaplain in a small department where several things can mount up during the week, it can get to you. You can get compassion burnout, and you can begin to lose yourself. These things cost you emotionally, and you just got to make sure you're okay. So that's all right. Anybody else have anything? I can start my next deal, and we'll get this thing on the road. Okay. Okay, let's start this again. Unless anybody has anything to say, I'll just keep going. All right. There we go. Y'all see that? Class 12. All right. Class 12 is stress management. These are much the same kind of field, so it's good to just flow one from the other. The red flags of emotional exhaustion. How can you tell when your energy level is slipping to dangerous levels? What signals emotional and physical exhaustion? So answer the questions asked as you consider the last 2 or 3 weeks of your life. Give yourself a score of 2 if you say often, 1 if it's sometimes, 0 is rarely. If you want to keep your own score, you can. But I've given you this printed in your notes, and if you want to take a self-exam, we do that. Let's ask a question. Are you spending an unusual amount of time by yourself, withdrawing from friends, family, and work acquaintance? Oh, yeah. 2, are you becoming more negative, pessimistic, critical, or cynical about yourself and others? Honestly, could be. 3, are you forgetting appointments, deadlines, or activities and not feeling concerned about it? 4, are you more irritable, hostile, aggressive, angry, or frustrated than usual? Score 2 for each of those words. 5, are you sleeping either much more than usual or significantly less? 6, do you suffer from gastrointestinal problems like indigestion, stomach discomforts, diarrhea, colitis? 7, are you waking up feeling tired or fatigued? 8, are you spending a lot of time thinking or worrying about your work, people, the future, or the past? 9, do you have an overwhelming feeling of being overloaded, that too many demands are being imposed on you? Maybe we all feel that. 10, do you find yourself focusing on relatively petty things or persevering with non-productive or ineffective actions? There's more. Do you feel that nothing you do is effective in coping with your life, or that you are helpless to control the outcome of anything? 12, are you experiencing headaches, muscle tension, or stiffness in your shoulders and neck, or increased pain anywhere in the body? 13, does your heart thump or race, or do you get irregular heartbeats when you lie down to rest? Do you get dizzy or lightheaded, especially when you are under pressure? And have you become aware of increased anxiety, worry, fidgeting, and restlessness? So if you've done that there, you can add up all your ones and twos and make it into a number. 15 items cover the most significant signs of overwork: weariness, withdrawal, negative thinking, forgetfulness, irritability, stomach discomfort, headaches, and lightheadedness. This simple test will not yield conclusive results, but you can tentatively interpret your scores as follows. 0 to 5, you're solid gold. You're living a relatively stress-free life and appear to be coping well with your pressures, or else you're extremely unself-aware. But at any rate, that's a very good score. And 6 to 10, you're showing mild signs of distress from overwork. Just ease up a little bit. Okay. From 11 to 16, you show a moderate signs of distress from overwork. Ease up a lot. From 17 to 24, remember there are 15 questions, so this is more than one of on each of those as an answer. So you're showing severe signs of distress from overwork and need to change your style drastically and seek help from a professional if necessary. Now, what if you are 25 to 30? You're living like a time bomb, dangerously. You're almost 2 on all of those signals. You are experiencing distress in every major system and ought to consult a physician. Then get some good stress management counsel and rest. You're in trouble. You're overstressed. Okay. How does stress affect us? 1, alarm. This first stage is the mobilization of the body's defenses. Messages from our nervous system reach the hypothalamus gland that notifies the pituitary gland and adrenal glands. You know about adrenaline. The pituitary adrenal system pumps hormones into the bloodstream. These hormones have the effect of speeding the heart rate, increasing respiration, and stopping digestive activity. The body is ready for a fight. That's what adrenaline does to you. And it pumps it just as a chemical, and it starts to affect you whether you want it to or not. In animals or primitive man, this alarm system triggers physical action, fight, or else running away, flight. Thus, tension is released. If there is neither fight or flight, then there's no release for all that preparedness, such energy being bulked up inside the blood system. Such a situation can lead to ulcers, headaches, backaches, palpitations, rashes, and other ailments. There are two other reactions to, to conflict, by the way. Fight or flight are the two most spoken of. There's also feigning and fawning, which for different temperaments are more likely than fighting or flighting. Feigning is to feign death. In other words, play dead, try to be part of the rug, not be seen, lose yourself in the background. And the fawn is to go for the aggressor and say, "Nice man, I like you. You're my friend. I'm your friend. You pet me. I'm not a threat to you." But those are ways that we deal with stressors. Two, resistance and adaptation. In this stage, the invader is fought off. Adjustment is made. If tired, one sleeps. If hungry, one eats. This defense system works so well that the most of the time, we're not even aware of it. We are all bombarded by hostile forces, but we are not all sick. It is only when defense systems have broken down that illness will result. Exhaustion. The body cannot be under stress all the time. Release must occur. Illness can be the result of stress. The interaction of a hostile condition with stress could be the cause of colds, allergies, asthma, headaches, ulcers, colitis, heart disease, arthritis, and other illness. Okay. So how to avoid stress? Let's see. Here are just a whole lot of suggestions. And if the shoe fits, wear it. Get up 15 minutes earlier. Sometimes just having a little extra time and not always being on the clock. A little late and concerned about it can help us to de-stress. Two, prepare for morning the night before. We don't have to make our lunches in the morning. We can make them the night before, put them in the refrigerator, get a good night's sleep, get up and throw it in the car. Three, never wear ill-fitting clothes. And here's the Chaplain Hansen edition, get good socks. I'm always appalled by somebody who goes to Big Five and gets the 10-pack of tube socks for $5 and thinks he's done himself a favor. These bad socks, think about it. You may pay $100 for your shoes, but if you got $2 socks, you've got the thing that's closest to your feet and skin and all the stuff that you're standing on all day long has a seam running right down the side of it or down the middle, or it's all folded funny around your toes. It's not supporting your feet. Why are you even wearing such a sock? So get good socks. They're not that expensive and they last a really long time. End of sermon. Set appointments ahead so you can gauge your time and space your appointments out so that you can meet people and take care of business without running yourself ragged. 5, don't rely on your memory. This is talking about 30 years. I got a call from the funeral home, said a complete stranger has died and that the family wants to name you as the person to do the burial service at the gravesite. Just show up at such and such a time next week on Thursday. So I get through the next week and I go about my business and I don't think about this thing on Wednesday. And I get to Thursday and I think stupidly, I've written it down somewhere, but I can't find the note. But I think the funeral was yesterday and they didn't call me and they were mad at me and I forgot the whole dang thing. So I went out and did a little shopping and drove home. And my wife met me in the garage and said, "They're waiting for you at the cemetery. Why aren't you there? Get over there as fast as you can. They'll hold back the service." I went, "Oh my God." I didn't realize my memory failed me as to which day it was on. And that's the only time I've missed a funeral. I got there and I said, "Don't pay me." And they said, "We're going to pay you." I said, "Don't do it. You make me feel terrible. I really messed you up." They said, "Here, take it." Just, and they drove off and hated me. Um, I don't know what you do. That's a stress. Obviously, 30 years later, I still remember it. So it burned a hole in my memory banks. 6, practice preventative maintenance. That's not just for your car, but for your body, for your world, your life. Take care of things. Make sure everything's running right so you don't always have breakdowns. Make duplicates of all keys and then store them properly and somewhere you know so that you don't suddenly lose your key and can't get in. 8, rearrange your work hours if possible, if that helps you. Okay. Say no more often. Shop online or by phone. You don't have to face the crowds. That's getting to be more and more popular. 11, rearrange your meal times. Now that's positively rearrange so that you can eat without stress. Sometimes it's a very, very good thing to have a meal time with somebody and spend the time with that so that you don't have to rush, or eat on the hoof, as we say. Feed the children separately. That can be also a possibility. Sometimes that's not the thing to do. You want to have familiarization with your family and the time together, but you choose your spots anyway. Keep emergency supplies. So you make sure you're always not just on the edge of running out of everything. 14 is to walk everywhere that you can. So if you got a three or 4 block walk to go drop off a piece of mail, don't get in the car and run it over there and run back again and park again. Just take a walk. It takes 20 minutes, but it's good for you. 15, make copies of all important papers and file them separately, obviously. 16, don't put up with anything that doesn't work properly. You got something that's always breaking down, get rid of it. Everything is changeable now. 17, make advance reservations so that you're not worrying about whether you can get in. 18, allow extra time for things. They always takes extra time. But you can make allowance for that and make sure that you're okay with it. 19, be prepared to wait. Going to an office and finding out they're not ready to see you yet, allow for that. It's going to take time. Find humor in whatever it is that you're doing. Humor is a great piece of psychological self-help. Relax your standards where you can. Obviously, the standards of God, of course, are perfect, and that doesn't get relaxed. But he doesn't seem to be tense about it, come to think of it. Get help where you need it. Establish a serene place of your own. I know a friend who created for himself out in his back garden a prayer place. He made a sort of a bower, some walls and some plants and some things, and so he could go back there and be in private for as long as he wanted to, and sit and pray and read and take care of himself. It's kind of a nice serene place that he made in physical sense, someplace in your own house, someplace in your life, a place that's yours to be serene. There obviously to have quiet times to read and to pray. Change your perspective. We all need that sometimes. We get logged into things that the world tells us to be angry about when we could really just change our perspective and figure out there's something in this. I'm not necessarily big on Chinese sayings, but sometimes they're pretty smart when they say that crisis or calamity is just an opportunity. We can take a lesson from that because we can figure out ways to get mad and frustrated with the way things are. But if everybody else is kicking the can and being angry, we might find a way that put it to our benefit. Count your blessings. We've always said that all of our lives. Keep time fillers by the phone. What does that mean? Well, something constructive that you can be doing that you can put on and off while you're waiting for something on the phone. Travel light. Uh, we're going to learn how to do that someday, but we always seem to bring the kitchen sink. Be prepared for rain. That does happen. It's doing it on and off today and for the rest of the week. Ask questions. That's something guys don't do, but we can take a lesson from that. Take advantage of your body rhythms. Figure out when it is that you're just too tired and take a nap instead of pushing through it if you can. Make contingency plans. So if this doesn't work, we got someplace else to go. Unclutter your life. Clutter, it can be a real problem and it creates stress. You look around you and all this mess just tells you what your life is from inside by having a mess outside. So if you were able to unclutter your life and get rid of things that are stupid on your schedule, you've got a more serene possibility of living out your life well. Avoid reliance on chemical aids. That's, of course, drugs and booze and other things like that. Get in touch. If you're thinking of somebody, call them or text them nowadays or email them. Take time out to breathe deeply, stretch your muscles, nap, meditate. We don't give our bodies enough of the relief they need often. Find enjoyable ways to exercise. Sometimes exercise seems like such an unendurable thing because it hurts your body or it feels bad. But if you can figure out a way to do it, you enjoy. This is quite a number of years ago. You can tell by the activity, but I used to love to get together with a friend of mine and play racquetball for an hour. We got into the court and we just knocked each other to death. But you just didn't stop. You always were moving and swinging your arm and estimating where the caroming effect of the racquetball would go and how to put it out of play and how to retrieve something off the back wall. And you don't think about how exhausted you are. All you can feel is this is great fun. So find something that's fun. I guess people do pickleball nowadays. I'm not sure. Get it off your chest. Something on your chest, maybe something needs to be get off your chest by expressing it somehow or entering a discussion somewhere. Reward yourself after stressful activities. Take leisurely baths or showers or whatever it is you like to do. Schedule more fun and do the fun. Take a break from children when that's what something you need. Okay, some common sense for stress management. I know this whole thing is a whole list of admonitions, but just take it in stride, whatever fits, work with. Eat 3 meals a day, including breakfast. You don't want to skip meals. If you can help it, it's a stressor on the body to have to shift and start to eat yourself. Avoid sugar, salt, fat, and white flour as much as you can. Pursue regular program of physical exercise. Nurture and maintain friendships. Get enough sleep, 6 to 8 hours minimum. Practice abdominal breathing and relaxation. Schedule time and activities alone and with others. If you smoke, stop. Limit your alcohol and caffeine intake. Pace yourself. Identify and accept emotional needs. Recognize early warning signals. Allocate time and energy to allow for stimulation. Take appropriate supplements with your meals. Avoid self-medication. Take one thing at a time. Give in once in a while. Talk out your worries. Make yourself available. and learn to accept things that you can't change. It's the serenity prayer. All right. Now, we've all heard about the kind of stress that can come from different life events and what it rates the death of your partner, your wife, or your husband can be, if you set that as on the scale of 0 to 100, it's 100. The death of a partner, a loved one so close to you, is uh, the hardest thing you go through. So that's 100. A divorce or separation from that relationship looks like it's about 75. Prison term or legal problems can be up over 60. Marriage and family troubles can be up over 50. Marriage and children, I don't know why that's repeated. That's just their graph. The loss of a job can be around half or 50%. Retirement can be not much less stressful. You don't need to go to work. You're retiring with a plan, but it's a change of life that means you stop working and you stop validating yourself by what you do. Another rating score looks like this: the death of a spouse again at 100, divorce 73, marital separation 65, getting a jail term 63. 63 also is the close family member dying. Personal injury or illness at 53. Getting married is a stressor of about 50. It's a big change of everything. And so stress can come from good and bad events. Fired from your job at 47. Marital reconciliation, 45 degrees of stress, but of course it's a good thing. Retirement, a good thing, 45. Change in health of family members, somebody you love that's close to you has just been contracted cancer, 44. A pregnancy, a good thing, but still very stressful, 40. Sexual difficulties, 39. Gaining new family members, somebody marries in, or the birth of a family member. Business readjustment, what does that mean? Well, maybe you you stay with a company, but they're sending you to Kansas City, 39. Change in financial status, about a 38. The death of a close friend, 37. Change to a different line of work, 36. Change in number of arguments with spouse. That's an interesting category. Change in the number, it could be up or down. I would imagine up is bad. Down might be concerning because we're not sure why she's so quiet. Anyway, a mortgage over $80,000, that's probably gone up to 150 or 200,000 nowadays. The foreclosure of a mortgage or a loan, that would be a serious piece of stressor. Wife begins or stops working, 26. To begin or end school, 26. Now, I'll be very clear with you all. I guess it was back about 15 or 20 years ago that I realized that I was still going through a gut check every time I went to the newspaper, and opened it up. And the ads in this pull-out stuff in the middle were headlined "Back to School Sales." And seeing "back to school" my gut would check in. Then I'd stop myself and say, "You haven't been to school for 30 years, Hanson. What are you so worried about? Why are you stressed about that? You're not going back to school." Yeah, but I remembered feeling go back to school and how that would affect me. Still, the stressor was there. Change in living condition, revision of personal habit, or trouble with the boss. Those are all in the mid-20s. Change in work hours or conditions or residence is about a 20. Then lower level stressors, a change in schools, change in recreation, change in social activities, mortgage or loan of less than 80 grand, as I said, maybe probably 200,000 now. It's around 17. Change in sleeping habits, 16. Change the number of family get-togethers. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Change in eating habits, 15. Anyway, you may also wish to take the job stress burnout questionnaire and score yourself. But let me ask a question. If you rate too stressed, oh, who wrote this? What are you going to do about it? You're too stressed. If you don't do something, it will do it unto you. All right, gentlemen, we've managed to get through this in an hour. So let me go back to you all, and we'll go back to here. Oops. Undo those. All right. Whoops. Where'd you all go? Oh, hang on. Are you all still there? Talk to me.
Yep, we're here. I'm
There you
here.
are. I lost my,
Still here.
thank you. I lost my
We can
view.
still see your screen.
Oh, are you? Still
Yeah.
oh, hang on.
Maybe
There
you
it
stopped
is, there it
sharing your
is, there it
screen.
is.
Yeah.
That's better. That's what happened. Well, that's a little tiny thing at the bottom of my screen there. All right. Brandon, how are you doing in Chico, California? Brand new pastor of the Lutheran Church. And so you haven't been under any stress or anything, have you?
Not anywhere close to burnout. Last week was exceedingly stressful, dealing with some of the biggest situations that I've dealt with so far here. So
Okay.
got through them. So
Well, take care of Brandon for us, man. Yeah, make sure you survive.
yeah.
Even friendly situations can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Everybody's adjusting. And
I
you
was really feeling burnout at the end of my seminary career, the seminary school, because that had been 8 years worth of classes
ooh,
between college and seminary. So this is a good change.
that's good. That's good. How do you like Chico? Where'd you move in here from?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
That's a change. We don't really have winter like they call it back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is winter. If you look outside right now, this is kind of winter. Only
Yeah.
the leaves will be gone, but that's it.
I'm originally from Utah, and my mom grew up in Santa Barbara.
Mm,
So I love California, and my wife and I both like it here a lot.
yeah. But Chico's a nice town. If you compare all the towns in California as to a place to live in, especially moving in with a family, this rocks. This is okay. This is gonna do well by you. Good. And Jeff, you're going through a merger up there on the ridge, are you not?
Yeah, looks like we're gonna do that.
I had breakfast with Ray on Tuesday. I usually do. So yeah, that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
He said his church was born out of a church split with yours. God knows how long ago.
I was in the 60s, so I'm approaching it more as a reconciliation,
Yeah.
even though nobody can tell, nobody was around. There's no hurt from it. There's no residual. So, I
No
mean,
bad memory.
so there's no need for two Assembly God churches on the ridge.
No, not really. Not now.
No.
No.
So yeah,
Good.
we got a lot of work to do. So yeah.
Well, you inherited from that his church, the Skyway, from a good man. I've known him a really long time.
Yeah.
And he's good, solid dude. So and this is his swan song. He thought he was all done, didn't he? But he got called on to take care of it. But he's launched it into a good status, so you guys can do well.
Yeah.
You guys have a building plan? Those are stressful.
We're gonna be having all kinds of conversations for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Appreciate it.
Go well. Yeah, for the other guys here, the two both the Assembly of God churches up on the ridge burnt down during the fire. So they both had to relocate and take other digs. And the two had been one back in the 60s, as Jeff says. So it makes sense with the depopulation of the area and everything else. It ought to be one church in that denomination up there, and it would take care of everybody. Not that big a town. So lovely. I'm glad that that's happening. But if the stresses get to you, we're all here. All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And how about you, Joe? What church do you pastor?
I pastor Elk Creek Community Bible Church, about 20 minutes west of Willows, up in the foothills.
Okay. You must draw people from a big geographic area because you don't have a big city out there.
Yeah, we have 168 people in town. So
Okay.
if I have a service of 30, I'm a mega church in Elk Creek. So
All right. Build you a dome and a yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
prayer garden.
I've been here 8.5 years.
Good for you. Glad you're taking care of those people. Yeah.
It's a wonderful community.
All right. And of course, Mark, we know he helps me here in our church. He's looking toward ordination, so he's not ready to take in chaplaincy yet, but he's been a full-time police or sheriff's deputy down in San Diego County. So he knows a thing or two about stress. Oh yeah. A little bit, could be. He was a dog cop though for quite a while. That kind of a good way to psychologically deal with policing when you were had canine?
It really was. I did it for 10.5 years. I ended up actually working 3 separate dogs. And as my wife would put it, she didn't have to worry about me being out on the road. She says, I always knew you had a partner there for you. So, and the nice thing, in my opinion, was that nobody wanted to fight with the dog. I don't quite understand that, but I'd show up with the dog, and guess what? People would give up, and that would work for me because I didn't have to put my hands on anybody or do a use of force or anything like that. And that made it a lot easier.
Well, those dogs have a good reputation of, and everybody's seen those attack films, so they don't want to find out how those teeth feel.
Yeah,
So they're not going to do that. It just
the interesting thing was throughout my time with the dogs, I probably had close to almost 700 arrests with the dog where I physically had the dog out with me. And out of those, I only had 3 bites. So I was pretty proud of that fact.
Cool.
So
Animals get a different kind of respect than people do. I know that when we had the mounted unit here in Chico and they had big student gatherings or potential riots and things like that, they'd bring the horses out and they were just like a moving force, and they would just move the crowds back, and everybody was, what are you going to say to 2,000 pounds of horse meat? You better just get out of the way. And we had I wish I could find the photo from there. You'd love this picture. It's in front of our church. The 4 mounted policemen were there all sitting next to each other, and 3 of them were like Belgian draft horses. They were ginormous horses with feet like pie plates, these giant big hoofs. And then the one was a quarter horse, which Abigail Madden would ride. She's an officer who's about 100 pounds soaking wet, and tough gal, but still not big. And what they'd use, they have these 3 massive horses be the sort of the wall, and she was the cutting horse that would find the bad guy and kind of cut him into the deal, and they'd take care of him. So it was a neat unit and they actually were getting statewide awards in some of their competitions and things. The mounted units like to go to competitions, and Sacramento has a big bureau of them. Modesto has a good mounted unit, but we had to give it up because it was expensive during the kind of post 2008 recession. And I think it hasn't, it just finally had to die off because the officers didn't want to carry the expense themselves. But our chaplaincy helped to launch them because we held their money bag for them. The most austere thing, and I think I mentioned this during police deaths and death funeral, and the funeral that was held after the inskip incident up on the ridge. Our mounted unit had just been formed and had just gotten the uniform stuff, the blankets and the proper harnesses and so forth that were marked properly. They had just come in for the 2 horses that we were running then. And the 2 officers who died with the Butte County Sheriff's Department, we had their caskets put up in the 2 horses that were provided. And the horses were led out, led, not ridden, following them with riding boots put backwards in the stirrups, all very significant and symbolic of a officer down. And they were marched in front of the church as we exited. It was impressive. It was very impressive and very solemn. Okay. If nobody has a good stress story, I'm going to let you guys out early today, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for our final 2 classes. Any question? One other thing I'm going to send to you, if you care for it, Chico PD chaplains are being asked to consider doing this, which is to get the CPR certifications. Maybe some of you have those currently, but if you do not, it's a good thing to have. If you haven't taken CPR training, it's a real good science and a thing to know how to do. They'll teach you how to do the compressions and what the proper order of these things are, how to prepare a person for that. Also some triage, quick first aid stuff that happens. And then the Heimlich maneuver, that's always a good thing to be trained in. I've seen it used actually successfully in a restaurant that saved somebody from choking out. It's a combination training of online, which you pay for separately, which is a state thing, and then in-person training. We have an outfit here called Lifeline that's here in Chico, which is not too far from any of you, for a hour and a half or 2 hour training that puts hands on with the dummies. So feel free to take part in that. I will send you the same mailing I sent to our chaplain so you can see how you get a hold of that. Up to you entirely. Okay. Jeff, are you uniformed? Do you have you gotten uniforms from the Paradise Fire and PD chaplaincy? Or I don't run any of that stuff. It's all up there. You got to liaison or talk to Cameron about that. I guess there's a standard, and you know Rick Skillen, of course. He's your he'll help you figure that out.
Yeah, I talked to him last week, and so we're still working the process.
Okay. And Billy, you're going to have to invent a uniform for the Oroville PD. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, well, they gave me a regular uniform, but it just has a chaplain on the shoulder.
Okay.
And then
a shirt like this or something that nature. Is it blue or no? Yeah.
No, it's black, just like the OPDs.
Okay, they are in black and not blue, huh? I don't know. Yeah, okay. Yeah, some officers do. Sacramento does black. Okay, cool. All right, well then you're all set up. And I know Joe, you guys all have uniforms. They all look a little different from each other, but they all look like sheriff stuff. Yeah, good. All right, any questions? Anybody? 2 weeks from now, we'll have our final get together in course, and I bid you a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving. Brennan, why don't you offer us a prayer to get us out of here?
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you for another day under your grace, and thank you for this time to be together to continue to learn and grow in how we can better serve our communities and our police officers as chaplains. Thank you for the leadership of Bishop Hanson and for all of these, all of us who are going through this. Bless us as we return now to our places, and especially bless us and help us to remember and give thanks for all of the wonderful blessings that you do shower upon us every day. All this we pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Hey,
Amen.
happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy